What's going on, everybody? Jolt here from TheTokenMinorities, and I am bringing you Week 9 of the NPL. It is hard to believe we're already 9 weeks into this season. It seems like we just started like a month ago, you know? But here we are, 9 weeks into the season. We are doing really well. We are currently 6-2, so we are nearly locked in on a playoff spot at this point, although Togavor and the Portland Timbers are quickly closing in on me. Even though I haven't been losing very often, they haven't been either, so I need to stay on top of my game. But this week, we are against my good friend, probably my best friend in the league, Cheeseboy628, and the Phoenix Sunkern, and his team is constructed very much so like a UU team, so even though he is a very good battler in OU and in lower standard tiers, I have a pretty good matchup overall this week just because of the nature of really the base stat totals of my Pokemon compared to his. So matchup to matchup, I do have an advantage, but just looking through some of the mons he has Mega Medicham as his Mega, which really is quite threatening, as the only real option I have against that is to trap it and KO it with Wobbuffet. However, he can easily prepare for that simply by running Substitute or even Bulk Up on his Medicham. So I need to be really careful in this matchup against the Medicham, and quite frankly, I have to dedicate Wobbuffet as a Medicham counter such that I can take the appropriate amount of hits necessary to be able to take it out with a counter. So that's the idea against Megacham. The rest of his mons overall aren't terribly threatening, as I do have some hard counters to really his best sweepers, especially Suicune and Cloyster, as I do have Vaporeon and Empoleon, so I'm not terribly worried about those. But then he does have Scrafty and Zygarde, both of which are pretty big threats, I'll have to say, as at least against Zygarde I can easily pack Hidden Power Ice to bop it for 4 times super effective damage, but regardless, it does have priority Extreme Speed and Dragon Dance, and then Incredible Dual Stab and Dragon Ground, so it's definitely going to be a threat to prepare for. But really the biggest threat to my team, I have to say, is the Scrafty. Now, although Scrafty is not exactly a good Pokemon in this format, it's definitely respectable, and quite honestly, I don't have much of anything to deal with a bulk up Shedskin Scrafty, so I'm gonna have to play really carefully against that, and you'll see what I do whenever I discuss my team building process as to how I'm going to prepare for that this game. So with that in mind, let's go ahead and jump into that. So looking back at Cheeseboy's previous battle videos, I've recognized that he's had a pretty dang hard time against really stout defensive cores. So with that in mind, I decided that it was in my best interest to bring a very stout defensive core myself. And in doing so, I decided to bring Vaporeon, Empoleon, and Mega Venusaur, as Vaporeon is going to provide a fantastic wish support for my team, in addition to hard countering the Suicune with Haze. And Empoleon I am bringing because it is incredible hazard control with access to Stealth Rock and Defog, and then appropriate coverage moves to best handle the majority of his team. And then Mega Venusaur, which is going to be a 3 attacking Mega Venusaur with HP Ice this time, such that I can best handle the Zygarde, which really is probably the second biggest threat to my team, and I want to make sure to keep it in check. As for the rest of my mons on my team, because of the threat of Mega Medicham and Darmanitan, I decided to bring a fully defensive Wobbuffet, and the idea there is to hopefully trap the Mega Medicham as early as possible and maybe use the rest of Wobbuffet's health to at least deal some damage to something. Hopefully Darmanitan, or if Darmanitan U-turns, I can hit something else. Regardless, Wobbuffet should be able to take out one mon and severely weaken another one in this game if everything goes as planned. As for the rest of my mons, I decided to bring 2 sweepers, as that is kind of generally what I've been doing this season, and I wanted to make sure that both of these sweepers would be a check or counter, a check, to his Scrafty. Scrafty is the biggest threat to my team, and from my wall core, I really don't have much to handle it outside of Haze on Vaporeon. So I brought Tornadus Therian and Alakazam. Tornadus Therian is EV to outspeed a +1 speed Scrafty, +1 Jolly Scrafty, by 1 and take it out with a Hurricane. So that's the idea with this thing. I'm bringing Taunt such that I can neuter the Suicune, and he really doesn't have other mons that I'm worried about that would require Taunt, just mainly the Suicune in case Vaporeon is unfortunately taken down in some way. And then as for my other mon, I brought Alakazam with Focus Sash, Calm Mind, and then coverage moves. These coverage moves are really, really good against this team, as he really only has 2 potential switch-ins to Alakazam, those being Escavalier and Goodra. Psyshock definitely deals with Goodra, and HP Fire obviously destroys Escavalier. So, and Dazzling Gleam, of course, is 4 times super effective against Scrafty. So I think the Alakazam is going to be the win condition in this game. If it's not, I'm really going to be surprised. But that's kind of the team. The overall idea with this team was to pressure him with hazards, as his only hazard remover is Donphan. And if you look at the 6 mons on my team, Donphan doesn't stand a chance against any of them. So my goal is going to be to get hazards up as soon as possible, and then they're probably going to be there to stay, as he really can't switch in Donphan on anything. With that in mind, let's go ahead and jump into the battle. Alright, so at Team Preview, there are no surprises. He brought the Mega Medicham, Donphan, Cloyster, Darmanitan, Suicune, and Scrafty. The good news here is that I do have 2 of his mons hard countered, the Cloyster and the Suicune. The bad news is that he brought Mega Medicham, Darmanitan, and Scrafty, so Wobbuffet's going to have his work cut out for him this game, and of course Scrafty is a huge threat to my team, so I have to play against him very carefully. The good news, though, as well, is that he brought Donphan, which means that that is what he's going to try to rely on for hazards in this game, and I have Donphan pretty well in check throughout this entire game, so that's definitely nice. As for the lead matchup, I think it is in my best interest to lead Wobbuffet in this game, just in case he does lead with Darmanitan, as that would guarantee that I get a free hit, a free counter off on something, because Darmanitan never is going to run Substitute unless it's running Fire Punch over Flare Blitz, otherwise it's just suicide, you know? So I am going to lead Wobbuffet in this game, also just in case he wants to lead Donphan, or in case he wants to lead with Megacham, as if it's Megacham, then I get a free counter off, or potentially an Encore if he substitutes, and if he leads Donphan, I get an Encore off and a free setup with Alakazam. So regardless, the team preview allows me to lead Wobbuffet pretty easily, and that's what I'm going to do here. So here I lead off with Wobbuffet, and he leads off with Darmanitan, which is great, because now he's either going to be forced to Flare Blitz or U-turn, and if he U-turns, something is going to die or get severely weakened, and he decides to bring in Donphan, which really is no surprise, as he must realize that Donphan is as good as useless against my team, other than to get up Stealth Rock right here. I am going to take this as an opportunity to go into my Mega Venusaur and get the free Mega Evolution on the Stealth Rock turn, and that's great. As he goes into his Darmanitan, the switch was really obvious, as he probably wanted to save Donphan as a potential spin later in the game, so I just go for that Sludge Bomb, and I unfortunately don't get the poison, but I go for the second Sludge Bomb here, again predicting the U-turn, and I get the poison on the Mega Medicham. Now this is really big. Because he is poisoned, he's not able to click Substitute, and he told me in the chat that he had Substitute, and that is no surprise, that was the best option he could have brought. The bad news for him is that because his Megacham is poisoned, it's not a threat to my team whatsoever, so he just lost really one of his win conditions in this game. And for that I do feel bad, but because this is a league and because I am looking to make the best record possible, I'm going to take what I'm given and play appropriately. So here I'm going to go into Wobbuffet and just trap him, because Megacham is as good as dead. I don't want him to deal damage to anything on my team other than Wobbuffet, and with that in mind, I'm just going to eat up this second Zen Headbutt as he tries to go for the flinch and then take me out with another Zen Headbutt or HJK. But unfortunately for him, he doesn't get the flinch, and I'm able to take him out with a counter. So Wobbuffet picks up a KO in this game, which is really nice. The scary thing is he goes into Scrafty, so I'm just going to click Encore here on the Suicide, as I don't want him to start Dragon Dancing or Bulk Upping in my face. And the Encore would prevent that, but he just decides to take me out with a knockoff, which is a-okay with me. I'm going to bring in my check the Alakazam on the Focus Sash and just go for the Dazzling Gleam. I have no reason not to, as he goes into his Suicune. Now I'm just going to go straight into my Vaporeon, as I need to see what kind he's going to be. I don't know what he wants to do. He tries to pull a double into Scrafty. I assume he was trying to predict the Empoleon switch in, as that would have allowed me to get rid of the Stealth Rock and perhaps lay my own. So he makes a nice play there, although I don't make that particular play. I decide to go into Vaporeon instead, which is fine with me. As he goes for the knockoff, I'm not really bugged by this, as I do have Wish support, and I can easily shrug off that damage, and to be honest, I really don't need the leftovers too much in this game. Here it becomes a Suicune Vaporeon standoff, and I fully anticipated this before going into the battle, but I had the counter in Vaporeon to Crocoon, and because I had the counter, I was going to bring the counter, and the counter set was Scald, Haze, Wish, Protect. I can't do anything to him, or I can't do much to him, I should say. He can't do anything to me. As I do have Water Absorb, Scald is going to be doing nothing to me, and this is going to become a stall war that lasts for several several turns. 60 to be in fact. So I am just going to speed this up right here. Okay, so finally something changes after a ton of turns. It's finally turned 75, and here we are. He decides to switch out as I lay a wish. So let's go ahead and jump in, and he goes into his Scrafty, probably predicting the Empoleon switch in, as I really have no other recipient for the wish available, but I decide to play it safe and not make that switch, as I actually kind of expected him to try to make that Scrafty switch, as that was the first time I had clicked wish in a long time. I do just go for the Scald here on the Scrafty, and I get the burn on the first try, and the crit on top of that. So that's really unfortunate for him. It's awesome for me, as now I have sufficiently hacked down both of his win conditions. So that's really nice, and that kind of means this game is going to be wrapped up here relatively quickly, as Vaporeon is going to be able to easily Wish, Protect, Scald, stall out this Scrafty with no trouble whatsoever. And really, Vaporeon's going to be picking up a lot of kills in this game. The game's not over yet, don't leave me yet, but I am going to be able to take out the Scrafty here following this Wish with my Vaporeon. So the biggest threat is gone, and just as a little bit of a blurb on that whole Vaporeon, Empoleon, Suicune shenanigan that just took place, the thought process that I had was that I don't care if Empoleon gets burned, but Haze is not affected by pressure, so I was going to Haze as frequently as possible and switch between Vaporeon and Empoleon until I run him out of PP, so that's just what I decided to do. Here he goes into Cloyster, and the Shell Smash is obvious, but this is why I brought Empoleon with Energy Ball, or with Grass Knot rather, as I'm going to be able to easily OHKO the Cloyster, hoping that he doesn't have like a King's Rock. That would really suck if he had a King's Rock and flinched me down here with his Cloyster, as then I'd be pretty screwed. But I am able to eat up that Rock Blast with relative ease and take him out with a critical hit Grass Knot, which really did a lot of damage if you look at the calc on that. As Cloyster's special defense is paper thin, Grass Knot is pretty strong against it, and the critical hit just makes it that much worse. He goes into his Darmanitan Sand here, and because score is important in the NPL, I am not going to sacrifice my Empoleon. I'm just going to go straight into my Vaporeon and eat up that Rock Slide, go for the Wish, eat up another Rock Slide, which was kind of a dangerous play on my part, as he easily could have crit me down, and then I could have gotten swept by Suicune. But I think I had sufficiently stalled him out of enough Mons at that point for that not, or enough PP at that point for that not to be a problem. But that is the game. He decides to scoop there. Vaporeon would have cleaned up anyway. So that was a good game, Cheeseboy. I am sorry about the hacks. I fully admit that I hacked the heck out of you, but it is a game, it's part of the game, and I can't really do much about it at this point. But as far as the Toronto Staraptors are concerned, we are now 7-2. We are tied for second place in the league, And yeah, we're doing pretty well. We're very, very close to having that playoff spot wrapped up. But thanks so much for watching, guys. If you enjoyed, please leave a like and a comment. I do read all the comments. I respond to all of them, I believe, if possible. And your likes are obviously appreciated. So thanks so much for watching, guys. I will see you in Week 10 as we take on Fog and the Colorado Avalugs, which is probably my hardest matchup the remainder of this season. And it's going to be a doozy, as he does have a very potent stall core, which, and you guys know how much I hate stall. And then he has really potent offensive options in Mega Gardevoir, Keldeo, and Diggersby as well. So I'm going to have a tough time managing next week's matchup, but I am also up for the challenge. So I hope you look forward to that. I will see you all in Week 10.